fishermen of Guanabara Bay believe, on nights when a thick fog settles over the water, you should never look toward the far end of the bay. They say this fog is the breath of the dead, the breath of drowned sailors rising from the depths. They say that somewhere beneath these dark waters, ghost ships still wander. Enchanted sailors who disappeared in storms centuries ago, and whose souls were captured by the ocean. They say these sailors emerge from the fog, stare directly into your eyes, and drag your soul down into the dark depths of the water. Locals say that sometimes they can hear the sound of waves crashing against the wooden hulls of ships. Ships that cannot be seen anywhere on the surface.
And then, one day, deep beneath the dark waters of Brazil, where sunlight never reaches the ocean floor, his hand touches something. Not gold coins, not jewels, just a few broken clay jars. But those few jars could challenge one of history's greatest beliefs. Could it be possible that centuries before Christopher Columbus, sailors from the ancient world accidentally reached the shores of the Americas and were shipwrecked here in this very bay? The first investigations gave life to a hypothesis, one that shocked the history of seafaring. But even stranger than the archaeologists' theory were the events that followed the discovery. Welcome to Legend Relics. In this episode, we'll follow every clue behind one of archaeology's most mysterious discoveries.
The Sea of Darkness. Centuries ago, during the Middle Ages, European sailors called the waters beyond the Strait of Gibraltar the Sea of Darkness. A place where many believed sea monsters waited beneath the waves. Ships that ventured too far were swallowed forever. They believed the powerful currents of the Atlantic could carry a ship farther and farther west until it reached the end of the world. A place for which neither the ship nor its crew would ever return. But our story doesn't begin in the middle of the Atlantic. It begins in one of Brazil's most famous bays, Guanabara Bay. From the 16th century onward, this bay became the main maritime gateway to Rio de Janeiro. Portuguese, Spanish, Dutch, and French ships passed through these waters for centuries. Some reached their destination. Others disappeared forever beneath the waves. Naval battles, violent storms, hidden rocks all turned the seabed into a graveyard of hundreds of ships. Old sailors had a saying, one that divers still repeat today. The floor of Guanabara Bay hides more ships than any map has ever recorded. For years, local fishermen occasionally pulled up broken pottery or strange clay jars while casting their nets. They assumed the pieces belonged to ancient indigenous people of Brazil. Then, in 1976, a local diver named Jose Teixeira recovered two perfectly preserved clay jars from the seabed. He handed them over to the Brazilian Navy. That discovery soon attracted one of the world's best-known underwater archaeologists. Robert Marx. For years, he had searched the oceans for lost ships, hidden treasures, and forgotten history. But that day, his diving light fell upon something no one expected. Something that may have marked the beginning of one of history's greatest mysteries. The year was 1982. Guanabara Bay, near Rio de Janeiro. Marx, an American diver and explorer, moved slowly among the remains of old shipwrecks. His diving light swept across the darkness. And suddenly, it fell upon the remains of clay jars, as if part of an ancient ship's cargo had been lying silently on the floor of the bay for centuries. But what truly shocked everyone was the shape of these vessels. Marx had seen this distinctive shape before in European archaeological books. It was an amphora, a clay vessel associated with the ancient Roman world. Nearly 2,000 years ago, these vessels were vital to Roman trade. They carried wine, olive oil, and valuable goods across Europe. Finding Roman amphorae in Italy, in Greece, or even in North Africa would not be unusual. But Roman artifacts in the heart of Brazil, and dating back more than 13 centuries before Europeans are traditionally said to have reached the Americas? That was astonishing. That was when Robert Marx realized this was no ordinary discovery. The big question was, if these jars were really Roman, how did they end up on the shores of Brazil? A detailed examination of the jars in a laboratory by leading specialists in Roman Amphorae revealed very strong similarities between these vessels and amphorae from the Roman world. If this identification was correct, there could only be two explanations. Either these jars had somehow reached Brazil centuries later, or the examination showed that these jars had not been made in Italy. Their origin was an ancient, prosperous, and highly mysterious port in North Africa. "2,000 years ago, the pottery workshops of this unknown port produced these amphorae to export some of the finest olive oil in the ancient world. But how could a ship from the other side of the world
have crossed the Atlantic Ocean? The answer may have been hidden in the currents of the sea. Perhaps a Roman merchant ship left this African port, and suddenly, off the west coast of Africa, it was caught in a violent and uncontrollable storm. The powerful winds of the ocean and the strong currents dragged the sailing ship thousands of kilometers westward, until finally, exhausted and badly damaged, the ship sank in Guanabara Bay.
This would mean that centuries before Christopher Columbus, sailors from that ancient African civilization may have crossed to the other side of the Atlantic and seen the shores of the New World, the Americas. That single possibility was enough to create a major controversy in the history of seafaring. But this extraordinary discovery faced one enormous obstacle:
The Brazilian government. Archaeologists, to prove that a Roman ship had crossed the Atlantic Ocean, needed to examine and gather sufficient evidence, including the remains of the ship, navigation tools, coins, and artifacts that could be scientifically dated. But suddenly, everything changed. Further excavations were restricted. The permits were revoked. And the investigation was stopped. Robert Marx was expelled from the country. Marx claimed that the Brazilian Navy dumped several tons of mud and sand over the archaeological site and buried it. This came as a shock and fueled countless rumors. Some people said the government was afraid that this discovery could challenge Brazil's official historical narrative. Others spoke of a hidden treasure, and some attributed everything to security concerns.
Today, nearly 50 years later, we still don't know how these jars reached Brazil. But the investigation led researchers to one clue: a city, most of which now lies buried beneath the sands of North Africa. A city that local people still whisper about. They say the sea swallowed it. Some still claim to hear the voices of its ghosts among the waves. And some compare it to Atlantis. If these jars really came from that city, perhaps the real secret is not on the ocean floor, but hidden beneath the sands of North Africa. This legendary city is the destination of our next journey. What exactly was this city? And what connection does it have to these mysterious jars?
Thank you for staying with us, and for keeping your patience and curiosity alive until the end of this video. If this journey through history and legend was fascinating to you, stay with the channel and invite your friends to join us on the journey. And in the comments, tell me, what is your theory about this story? Is it possible that Roman ships could have traveled such an incredible distance? Perhaps, like Odysseus, they became lost and wandered across the seas. Until the next episode, stay curious and keep searching, because every historical object has a legend, and every legend may be the last trace of a forgotten truth.